Salutations YouTube, welcome back to the third video in 3 weeks. Getting consecutive now, getting quite good at this lark. Anyway, it's another style of video, 3 scary stories, but this one it's about encounters with real life monsters. So, please get yourself a drink, get yourself a snack. Let me know what you're eating and drinking in the comments. Make yourself comfortable. I am drinking Chaotic Monster. The first video, the first story even, it's a bit long, so I'll tell that one first. But first I'm gonna have a bit of my drink. Right, let's begin. Back in the 1970s, a young guy and a young girl who met each other in college went on a first date together. The date took place in a restaurant and they got along fine as they're just getting to know each other, but the date wasn't all that special as there was no chemistry building between them. They both started to notice this, and the guy, towards the end of the date, suggested for him and the girl to do something crazy to make things interesting. The girl was caught off guard by this and asked what he wanted them to do. The guy states that he often goes for walks out in Provo Canyon, a beautiful forest nearby that had this amazing trail and incredible views of stars, and he goes there later in the day and there's no one around, and wondered if the girl would like to go there with him. There's no room and there's a new moon, so it would be great visibility for them both. The girl didn't mind and said yes. So the couple quickly left the restaurant, hopped into the car and drove a short journey all the way to the parking lot where Provo Canyon is. Excuse me. The guy pulls into the spot where no one's in sight. They get out of the car and suddenly their chemistry starts to spark as they begin laughing with each other, telling jokes and holding hands as they step foot into the unknown. They walk right into the parking lot onto this trail that goes right into the forest. The trail that they direct themselves to is well used, so the guy's very familiar with this area, thus limiting the chances of him and the girl from ever getting lost. The couple starts walking into the forest, and after a while, the vibe of the night started to change. Both of them went from being extremely giddy to intense dread as they continued walking in the forest, still holding hands. Neither of them spoke, but it became apparent that both individuals had this uncomfortable feeling that they couldn't really explain. They begin walking faster out of this nervous energy whilst holding hands to the trail just to see the overlook for a brief time, then exit back. Quick and simple. As they basically speed walk anxiously, unspoken, surrounded with nothing but trees and darkness in the night with no flashlight, they instantly hear a rustling sound, likely coming from a branch at the same time. And at the same time, the guy steps on something soft, causing both immediately to stop as the girl senses the guy's reaction that is something off. This is from the guy's reaction that something is off, sorry. The guy has no clue what he stepped on, and him and the girl stand there for a few seconds, and without any communication, they turned back around and walked out of the trail to the car. They didn't even look down or around when they stood on the soft spot. They just quickly got out of there in silence, not wanting to know what was lurking in the forest. They get in the car swiftly, turned on the engine and drove off, and as the guy's driving, him and the girl start laughing again and question to each other what was soft that he stepped on and wondered what was making that rustling sound. In the end, they concluded that it was maybe just a big animal. From then on, the two would build a strong connection with each other after their unusual first date, and as the years went by, they would wind up getting married, living happily together and having children. A decade later, they're at home and the TV's on showing a true crime show, and neither of them are watching. However, an interview comes up and it's a journalist talking to a death row inmate who happens to be very infamous. The death row inmate is near his execution date, so he gives a full-blown confession about all the horrible crimes he committed, and at some point in the interview, the journalist asked him, "Is there ever a time that you almost got caught red-handed before you got caught?" The death row inmate responded, "Yes, one time." And he recalled a time when he was out in Provo Canyon where he had just killed a woman and was about to dispose of her body. He remembers dragging her across the trail and seeing a young couple appear out of nowhere and quickly hid in some branches, and saw one of them step on the body as he stalked them, waiting to see what they're going to do. With reasons unknown to him, the couple didn't look down or around. They just turned and left, stating that was the only time he almost got caught, and admitted that if they had investigated, he would have killed the couple. That same couple had their first date that same night, came into contact with one of the most infamous serial killers of all time. His name was Ted Bundy. He killed 36 women and was later sentenced to death. Quite a popular story among urban legends, and, well, I'll say urban legends. That story has never been proven to be true. Unlike the next story, there is actually proof of this. But let me know what you thought of that first story. Let me know. Was it better or worse than the Peter Sutcliffe and John Wayne Gacy stories? Let me know. In 1978, a 16-year-old girl called Bridget was waiting outside her home for a boy to take her to prom. The boy was known to be really nervous around girls, so she figured it was going to be an awkward night, but she really wanted to go to prom, so she ultimately said yes. When the boy showed up, she was instantly disappointed. Her mum would take pictures of them both, you can see them online, and it was awkward at best. They were standing very stiffly, and he wore something like you see from the 1870s. He wore this ascot that Colonel Sanders from KFC is wearing. When they arrived at prom, Bridget wanted to go onto the dance floor to see her friends and lighten the mood, as she was not having a good time with the boy. After a while, she just says, "Hey, I'd just like to go home if that's okay with you." The boy is upset at this. He says to her, "I just wanted to give you a nice evening. I'm sorry I wasn't able to do that, and I'm sorry it wasn't nice." However, he drives her home and they say goodbye. He drives away, and that's the end of that. A week after prom, the boy invited Bridget to his house for a house party. She's hesitant and doubtful of the boy being able to put off a party, but she was polite and said, "Sure, I'd love to." When she arrives at the party, she notices that there's no food, no music, and about 3 guys sitting there, beer in hand, very awkward. As it turns out, the boy wasn't planning on having a party. He was going to hold a séance. I'll give you guys a few seconds to try and figure out who this person is. Right, time's up. She was so creeped out by his behaviour that after a couple of minutes she turns around and leaves the house. She never saw him again, until 13 years later when she read about him in the newspaper. 13 years after she last saw the boy, the police in Milwaukee saw a man named Tracy Edwards running down the road with a handcuff attached to one of his wrists, shouting that someone had taken him hostage and tried to kill him. The police go to an apartment that Tracy told them to go to, and they come face to face with a tall man wearing glasses. He tells the police that Tracy was his friend and it was all a huge misunderstanding. The police were close to believing him, but as they were about to leave, one of the officers looks behind the man and he's immediately tackled and arrested. They searched the apartment, and what unveiled was a literal house of horrors. The man was the same boy who went on the prom date with Bridget, and he was one of the most notorious serial killers of all time. His name was Jeffrey Dahmer. Just days after Bridget's mother took the pictures, he would kill his first victim, 18-year-old Stephen Hicks, and begin the 13-year killing spree. He killed 17 people and was murdered in jail in 1994. What do you think of that one then? Now, I'm just going to put this out there. These stories are not mine. I do get them from other sources like Reddit or other YouTube channels. So all the credit goes directly to them. Oh yeah, I've already through 2 stories. I've still got one more to go. Let me know which video you want to see next in the comments. This last story, once I reveal a certain fact about the person, you'll know who it is. After serving 21 years in the military, a man, along with his wife and son, moved to Central Florida. Even though he had a pension coming through and his wife still worked a full-time job, the man decided to pick up some work at a highway gas station for something to do, as he did not want to sit around all day. He would even take his son when it wasn't busy, and even years later, when his son was a teenager and would want to do other things, he still helped his dad out at the gas station, you know, with a little bit of allowance and yeah. He's on his break outside one night when he sees a woman making her way to the gas station. He watches her enter the gas station and is observing her secretly as she's walking up and down all the aisles. After a few minutes, she stops pretending to shop and approaches the dad. It's a quiet night and the son hears her telling him that her car broke down and she needed a ride to the next town over, which I believe is Ocala. The dad, who is normally kind and helpful with the customers, simply tells her no. And she's taken aback by his sudden rejection. The son is watching and listening when the woman turns and pointed at him. What about him? Is he your son? Can he give me a ride? The son notices his dad looking at him, as he's not in her line of vision, and shaking his head as if to say no. Like if she asks you, you're going to say no. The dad turns to her and says, "No, my son is not going to give you a ride. You need to leave right now." And with that, the woman storms out, shouting at them both and swearing at them. As she wanders off into the distance, the dad rushes out to his son. The son says, "What's going on? Why did you want to help that woman?" The dad said, "I don't know. There was something. I just felt something was off with her, and I knew I didn't want her inside. I knew I didn't want her near you, and I knew she had to leave." A few months later, the son is in his room when he hears his dad shouting from the other room, saying, "Get down here, quick! You need to see this." The son runs downstairs and looks at the TV, and he sees a woman on the news, and it is the same woman that was at the gas station. Her name was Eileen Wuornos. She was a serial killer who had killed 7 men. When she entered the gas station, she had already killed 4 people, and it's likely that the dad or the son, or maybe both, were her next target. She had been caught, and that's why she was on the news, and she was sentenced to death. And that's it for the stories. It's flown by. See, I'm mixing my 2 favourite things. Well, not favourites, but obviously serial killers and scary stories. So I'm still in with the scary stories series, but with a serial killer plot. But let me know what you think. Shall I do more serial killer encounter stories, or shall I just go back to scary stories? I'm interested to know what you guys think. Like I said, all these stories, they're not mine. I get them on the internet, either from Reddit, other websites, YouTube videos. So all the credit of these stories go to the originator of the stories. And that's going to do it. I'm sorry it's short, but I'm tired. I've had a long day today. But yeah, let me know what you think. I'd love to. I always read comments. I just don't reply to them. I should do, really. Yeah, let me know what you think. Leave a like. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.